Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1739. The topic is mindset and the title is Plan for When Things Go Wrong. Ooh. So I'm listening to a book. The book is Your 168. Okay, so Y-O-U-R, Your 168. And the subtitle is Finding Purpose and Satisfaction in a Value-Based Life. Now, this is written by Harry Kraemer. The last name is spelled K-A-R-A-E-M-E-R. So Kraemer, K-R-A-E-M-E-R. I'm listening to this because my wife Meredith was able to get into Kellogg for her executive MBA, which is freaking amazing. It's the second-ranked MBA, university, so it's insane. Very happy for her, super excited. Harry Kraemer is one of the teachers of the program, and one of their I guess the course's recommendations is to read this book before they would show up. Well, of course, I'm going to listen to it. I want to learn this stuff. I'm going to get my secondary MBA by just stealing all of Meredith's materials. But I love the book. Absolutely excellent. And there was a story that I wanted to share from the book that goes along with today's podcast. So, Harry Kraemer was talking about how to balance just the chaos of life with the chaos of work. And he said that him and his wife, when they had their first child, they kind of shared duties of taking the child to daycare. Somebody would take the child to daycare, somebody would pick up the child and bring them home. And they made it work. They ended up having a second child, and he said one day in his chaos and craziness of getting to work, he drove to daycare. He took his eldest child in to daycare, got back in his car, and then drove to work. Well, when he got to work, he looked in the back seat, and his youngest child was still in the back seat. So he left his baby in the back seat. So he went to daycare, where he should have dropped off both kids. He only took one in and then drove to work because he was in work mode. He's just that autopilot of this is what I always do. I always drop off my child, and he just forgot the second child. So it's oh crap. So he had to call his secretary. They had to rearrange a meeting that he had to be actually participating in. So they had to rearrange the order so he could take his second child back to daycare, drop her off, and then drive back to work and make it for maybe the second half or the last part of the meeting. So it was just oh crap, And what him and his wife had talked about was between the two of them, they know that for the most part, they can make it to daycare drop-off and daycare pickup. However, they have to plan for when things go wrong. Him and his wife are both very busy people. They do a lot of things. Sometimes planes get delayed, meetings get delayed, this or that. So they have a family friend who, in emergencies, has agreed that they would pick up the children if Harry or his wife called and said, hey, we're having one of those days. So they planned for when things went wrong. No matter what your goals are, things can and things likely will go wrong. You might have an early morning appointment that causes you to miss training. Maybe you have to do blood work, or you have some other appointment, so you have to fast, and therefore you miss meals. You have an emergency or a surprise extra, crap to do at work. Maybe an appliance breaks at your house, vehicle trouble. A lot in life can go wrong. And the what ifs. What do I do if this? What if this? What if that? Da-da-da-da-da. Can cause anxiety and actually can cause kind of paralysis. Not knowing what to do can often lead us to just not doing. So we need to plan for when things go wrong. What am I going to do when I miss a meal? How can I get right back on track? What am I going to do when I miss a workout? How can I get right back on track? How can I, stop the derailment and get back on track ASAP? And when we're prepared for those moments, we know exactly what to do and we can get right back on track. When we're unprepared for those moments, not only do we not know what to do to get back on track, we tend to beat ourselves up and say, oh, you always do this. This always happens. Blah, 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 blah. And we just get into this negative headspace that often prevents us from even getting back on track, even if we then figure out what the right thing to do would be. We just don't have the mindset anymore, right? So if we prepare for when things go wrong, not only do we know how to get back on track quickly, we also don't have to beat ourselves up. We already have a plan in place. We already knew that it was possible that this might happen, so we've already prepared for it. So a quick example is, as of right now, what my nutrition kind of looks like is I wake up in the morning, I have a liter of water with BCAAs mixed in it, and then I take supplements for joints and digestive tract. And I usually have that and kind of meander about the morning getting food ready for the day and their odds and ends for either 30 to 60 minutes, somewhere in there. Then I have a meal of chicken and rice. I do work for 3 to 4, maybe 5 hours. Then I go do my workout. In my workout, I have my protein drink, my intra-workout drink. I then have chicken and rice right after my workout. I go through the evening doing extra work and household things and spending time with Meredith. And then I have chicken and rice as like my last meal. So that is kind of what my day looks like. However, Meredith and I recently had an early morning appointment. So what do we do in those moments? The early morning appointment, I got to still drink my fluids, but I had to wait for food. I didn't have my food at my typical time. I was in it being 3 hours late when I was going to be able to eat. That also meant that I was going to have to eat a big meal right before I trained, and I was like, I don't like the feeling of that. So I wanted to modify that. I decided to split that meal in half. Then I still did my intra-workout drinks. And then the other half of that early morning meal, I just split in half again among my final 2 meals. So I had half of the half and my post-workout meal and half of the half of my last meal of the day. Is it perfect? Hell no. But did I get my calories in? Yes. Did I get my protein in? Yes. Did I make the best of what the day was? Yes. That's the idea. Meredith, since we went to the early morning appointment, she missed her workout. She normally works out in the morning. So what does she do? Well, she found a 20-minute gap in the middle of the day. She did Bowflex, which we have at our house. In our home office, we have like an elliptical. It's actually a vertical elliptical motion rather than horizontal motion because it helps build her lower glutes, which we bought intentionally. So she did 20 minutes on the Bowflex, doing what she could, and then she had to go right back to work, do all this stuff, and then later at night, like 8:30, 9 o'clock, she set a 10-minute timer, and she did some movements on our cable stack that we have at home before we sat on the couch and kind of called it night. But that's what she had to do. She had to modify from her morning workout, fit part of it in midday, fit the other part of it in at night. She has a plan of what to do, and she had to implement that plan. It's not what we would normally want to do, but it works well in the circumstances in which what you wanted to do is no longer possible. So your perfect schedule will not happen every day. What are you going to do? When you leave the baby in the back seat, what are you going to do? Right? Have you pre-decided on your secondary and even tertiary options? What are you going to do when plan A doesn't work? Do you have plan B, plan C, plan D? Do you know what you'll do and what you wanted to do can't be done? That's very important. Not only does it help you, like we said, get back on track, but it also helps control anxiety, helps control that paralysis by analysis, not doing anything because you don't know what to do kind of feeling, and it prevents or lessens that you're going to beat yourself up for when the plan A wasn't able to happen. It's not always going to be able to happen. So what are your second options? We have to figure those out. Okay? To help towards that, we do have our free nutrition information on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. If you go to free nutrition education, the first document there is how to create your own nutrition program. It's important to know what matters in nutrition. What matters most is calories and then protein content, not what you eat. So when your plan A goes out the window, just eat whatever the hell gets you to your calories and your protein target, whatever it is. Is that ideal? No. Is it better than not doing that? Hell yeah. But knowing what matters lets you know exactly what to focus on and what can get you back on track. So check that out on our website. For training, we have podcast 1530, which is a training podcast titled Quick Workout Ideas Based on Goals. So whether your goal is strength, muscle building, fat loss, whatever it might be, we have quick workout ideas in podcast 1530. You can find that podcast on our website. The podcast player on our website goes back 300 episodes, and then underneath that we have instructions on how to find older podcasts, whether you're on a mobile device or on a laptop. Okay? But it's very, very, very important to know what to do when what you want to do can't be done. You have to plan for when things go wrong. That way you can get back on track and not beat yourself up. Okay? So just know that life is going to kick you in the pants every now and then. Just make sure you're ready for it. Make sure you can fight back and get back on track. If you have any questions, let me know. My email, brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on our website. And if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.